So the cost of everything has gone absolutely bonkers nowadays. And one question we've seen all over the place is, can you still buy an affordable car? So what we've done in this video is we put together our top list of cars that are reliable, that can get you from point A to B. There's nothing fancy about them for the most part,
Yeah.
but you can typically still find these cars for under $10,000. So let's get into that list.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting, you'll spend it and be broke again.
So I know that might sound like a big promise to offer you guys a car under $10,000. I just don't see it in this market. But looking into the steps to finding your reliable car, you'll need to define your criteria. So know what size, style, safety features, and things like that you want. Research and compare. Obviously, you don't just buy the first car you find. Check out different cars that match your preferences. Go ahead and verify that reliability, whether that's, digging into the history, finding the Carfax, checking maintenance, just talking with the previous owners. Of course, along with that, test drive it. And don't be afraid to negotiate with people. I know that can be a very intimidating thing. Dealing with car dealerships, they know how to hustle. That's their whole job. Or if you're even buying in the secondary market with just a person you found on Facebook or something like that.
So before we jump into the list itself, please go in the comments to let us know what is one car you think is going to make that list. I'm pretty confident you can at least get one.
Probably.
Because if you've ever looked for a used car, this name comes up pretty common. So, or a couple of these names. So please let us know in the comments one you think is going to pop up. But we got this list from a various different sources. So Kelley Blue Book, cars.com, all the major sources you can get all this data and research and information. And so starting off the list, number one, the first car is a Honda Civic. Honda Civics, or Hondas in general, are just known to be very reliable, low on maintenance, and they will last just about forever. They are known to be very strong, durable, long-lasting cars. Again, low maintenance and fairly low entry cost to keep that low maintenance.
Yeah, Honda has a good reputation, and that's really what you're looking for with one of these cheaper cars, because you don't want to buy a cheap car that you're going to have to spend $100 a month in maintenance fees. I mean, that completely defeats the purpose. So Honda, great name. Civics are a classic. This might be one of the ones you were probably thinking of.
Yeah.
Kind of a classic answer, just a classic Honda Civic. You see them everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the cars I think the Dave Ramsey realm did their whole research of millionaires, and it's one of the top cars that millionaires drove, the average millionaire drove.
Yeah. So with these, you're not going to be buying a new Honda Civic, but like we said, they're very reliable. So going back into the early 2010s, you'll be able to find these in the range of $6,000 to $10,000. You may not get every little bell and whistle that you want with a used car.
I won't get most.
Yeah, but this is simply about finding affordable cars that are reliable and serve their main purpose, which is traveling A to B, maybe even to C, if you take good care of it. Next, another classic car is the Toyota Corolla. It's a car that a lot of people know is compact, has good fuel economy. It's just a good, reliable car.
And we could take almost exactly what we said about Honda Civic and put it in the Corolla. It's just very reliable. They last just about forever. Even if you get a Corolla with 150,000 miles, that's not crazy. That car will still go a good while longer. That was actually my very first car, and I think we bought it. It was 5 years old or 7 years old, somewhere in there, and we bought it for 10 grand or 5 grand. It was great, and it lasted forever. So next on the list, which is actually my current car, is a Hyundai Elantra. So the Elantra is very similar to this, but in past history, the Hyundais and I guess they're known by the same, but Kias weren't as reliable, weren't as good, so they didn't get that same reputation as Toyota and Honda has built over time. But nowadays, a lot of Hyundais have gotten much better.
Yeah.
I don't want to specifically talk to the Kia. Sometimes those have a little bit bad rap. But Hyundais have gotten much, much better. I personally have had my car for a good number of years now, and it's done great. Very, very low maintenance. And when I do have to get maintenance, it's usually cheaper than many other cars. So it's just very good car all around. Very low cost to entry and very low cost to keep over a long period of time, which is exactly what we're looking for.
Next is the Ford Fusion. I like to look at this car as one of the cars I considered when I was searching for my first car. I guess it's really second car. First ever car was the champagne colored Ford Taurus, And hey, it got me to point A to B. It was a reliable car.
But don't let him fool you. His nickname for it was the Rolling Turd.
Yeah. It wasn't quite as sleek looking as I think the Ford Fusions are. And you can find these with decent prices and everything. They are a pretty reliable car, decent fuel economy, maybe not quite like the Toyota or things like that, but still a good, reliable car. If you're a big Ford fan, then maybe this is the one you're looking at.
Yeah, and this one's great because you can probably find this one a little bit cheaper. Everybody's heard the word that Toyota and Honda are top-notch, most reliable, so they're more expensive.
Yeah.
And not only more expensive, but in my opinion, I have nothing to back this up, usually you get less features for it being a little bit more expensive. They're going off that name. Hyundai is starting to get there a little bit. They offer a little bit more features typically as bare bones. And then they also are a little bit more affordable. But I believe the Fords you can typically find even more affordable. That's not in their top three, so they typically go with their top three, and you can find that at a great price oftentimes.
Yeah.
Next on our list is the Nissan Altima. So the Nissan Altima, if you really need to save money, you're going to want to look at a Nissan. Nissans can be reliable because sometimes they have their problems, but they can be reliable, and they're just very affordable. From the start, if you buy a brand new, it's usually one of the lowest prices you'll see in industry. So if you're buying it used, you're typically going to see that trend as well.
And while it may not have the same prestige in name as like a Honda or a Toyota, it can be a very reliable car. I mean, my grandmother had a Nissan Altima, and it worked perfectly fine for her up until it was total and utter wreck. But that's not so much like it actually failed. It was just, an accident that wasn't her fault, by the way. But things like that. So any of these cars, as long as you take care of them and you look into your research and find out that the previous owners took care of it, they're all reliable cars. So it is still a good, viable option. But let's say you're looking for a little bit more room. You're like, I just need a little bit more room for my pets or my lifestyle, or I got kids. Yeah. Maybe you're looking for a compact SUV. Well, the Honda CR-V is a great option here. You see these out and about. Some old CR-Vs you'll see driving around.
Yeah, it goes under that Honda brand, that Honda motor. It's very reliable. It'll last just about forever. Again, I'm not recommending this, but just saying, if I were to look and I see a Honda at 150,000 miles, I wouldn't sweat it as much. Same with the Toyota. It wouldn't be as big of a deal as if I seen a Jeep at 150,000 miles.
Mitsubishi.
I'll be much more concerned.
Yeah.
And there's probably less of a chance I'll go and buy those.
Yeah, for sure.
So continuing the trend of reliable names and brands and SUVs or compact SUVs, the Toyota RAV4, you've heard of this. You've seen this a billion times. This might be the most driven SUV.
Yeah,
I see
really
it.
is.
Everybody has a RAV4. So they're very nice, sleek-looking cars. They get you from point A to point B. It's extremely low maintenance. They're very, very reliable SUVs. That's why people love them.
Yeah.
So this is a great option to stick in that category of very well-known brands that are very reliable, that you can get in at a low cost and stay at a low cost with the low maintenance.
Yep. All right, and finally is the Hyundai. I like to say it that way. The Hyundai Santa Fe. This is a car you maybe don't see quite as much as like a RAV4 or anything, but it's still a very good option if you need like a mid-size SUV. You're looking for that space and everything.
Yeah, and it goes under that Hyundai brand that's building and getting better, which is great. And that warranty, if you're the second owner, again, which is fantastic. But there's so many years you can go back that they've actually done pretty well. They don't have a ton of big problems, depending on the year. But most of the years you can look at, you'll find them with very low to minimal problems. And there's just, since it's been around so long, you can go back longer and keep going back till you find your price, basically, which is a huge, huge feature with a lot of these. You've seen a lot of these names and brands we've mentioned for this specific car go back so long that it opens you up to go from 2024 and 5 all the way back to 1995 or whatever, if you may need to, which helps a lot in that price factor.
Yeah, and be sure to look up the details year to year, because let's say you find a reliable car like one of these, the difference from one year to the next can be pretty drastic, honestly, both in price and just reliability. You're like, oh, the 2012 of this particular car had a lot of recalls for this one issue. Maybe don't look at that, even though you're like, oh, that's probably the same as the 2011 or the 2013. Reality is it's not. So be sure to be looking into some of the details and actual models of the cars you're looking for. And like we said at the very beginning of the steps, determine what's important for you: look, size, fuel economy, do your research, test drive if it's available, and of course, like we said, negotiate if you're feeling up to it.
One of the biggest pro tips I can give when I'm looking at a car for myself or helping anyone else, I look at, I believe it's carcomplaints.com. And it's where most people can go in and say the problems they've had with their car. And you can see 2015 Kia Sorento, massive engine problems. And it'll be like hundreds or thousands of reviews. 2014 Kia Sorento, no engine problem, one air conditioner went out. You're like, oh, that's nothing. Like I do need air conditioning, but one person complained about it. You can look, it's so helpful. You can do it for every year, every car, and you can click the car and just literally see the years listed and all the complaints. So sometimes you'll see a 2016, 10,000 complaints. 2017, there was a remodel and there's 5 complaints. You're like, okay, I'm only going to look at 2017s, or I'm only going to look at 2010 to 25 or 2005, whatever the situation. But it's so helpful to be able to look at that and see, these have a lot of problems, these don't. Just like Taylor said, from year to year, it completely changes.
Yeah.
So be careful of that.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. If there are any cars we missed, you're like, oh, I see these cars, and I bought mine for $8,000.
Yeah.
Feel free to leave that down in the
Please
comments.
do.
We're here to help people and learn from you guys. So please let us know any comments or questions you have, or you want a different type of car. Like I've seen some people talk about, these are the luxury looking cars that you can buy on a budget. Any of those kind of things. Feel free to leave down in the comments, or just completely unrelated topics.
Yeah.
We love to hear from you guys.
Yeah. So stay tuned for next week's video. As always, we'll be posting on Sundays. And like this video, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.